Why are you hurting? Jabbar, stop! Jabbar, stop! Doctor, I gotta talk to somebody. I need somebody to help me.
Well,
I can't take it anymore.
Oh, Fozia. She was running after a 3-year-old son. She tripped and fell.
Stop Violence Against Women is our new series this week. We begin with a recreation of a true story from the heart of the Muslim community in Toronto, Canada.
Hello, I'm Dr. Smith. And you're Fozia. Fozia. Yeah, it says here that you're 5 months pregnant and you've been having some internal bleeding. Is that correct? Yeah, you got quite a bruise there, too. Would you mind lying down? I'd like to do a brief examination.
Where to, sir?
Downtown, driver.
Okay.
When was the last time you said you felt the baby move?
This morning.
How many weeks pregnant are you?
About 21 weeks.
When did the bleeding start?
This morning.
Why didn't you come to the hospital right away?
I fell down and I was unconscious. Why are you hurting? Jabbar, stop! Jabbar, stop!
This presentation is specially developed by Soul TV. Like any other community, the Muslim community in Toronto is not immune to domestic violence. Our aim is to inform and educate. Please note, following the dramatization is a panel discussion by professional experts.
Doctor, I gotta talk to somebody. I need somebody to help me.
Well,
I can't take it anymore.
Oh, Fozia. She was running after a 3-year-old son. She tripped and fell.
Who are you?
I'm her Aunt Kulsoom.
Is this what happened, Fozia?
Yes, doctor.
Would you excuse us for a moment? I need to talk to you for a minute, please.
Driver, how long have you been driving a taxi?
2 years?
How do you like driving a taxi?
I don't. In my country, I'm an engineer. Here, I'm driving a taxi.
What kind of engineer are you?
Electrical engineer.
I'm afraid we may not be able to save the baby. There's been a lot of bleeding. Do you know what went on here?
So, how come you can't find a job?
No Canadian experience. No job, no experience. No experience, no job.
He said this was an accident, and he's very sorry for this.
It is never an accident. It is never an accident, and he is never sorry.
How long have you been in Canada?
4 years?
Fozia, I think that you need some help beyond what I can do for you in emergency. Now, I'm going to fix the physical part, but I want to refer you to a doctor who can help you with the rest of it, okay? Yeah, she does have internal bleeding, but it's not from a fall. Looks like she took a direct kick to the abdomen. No, the baby's dead. Yeah, Fozia is scheduled for surgery. So, Dr. Frank, is it all right if I send her to you for depression? And I don't know, maybe you can find out if there's some kind of violence going on at home.
Sorry, Fozia. I lost my head. I promise I'll never do that again. Please.
Husbands, men, they're the worst things on earth.
Oh no, Fozia, you're wrong over here. Husbands are majazi khuda, gods on earth. And we should obey them, or we will go to hell. And don't you think, Fawzia, that you can marry again if you will leave him?
I don't care if I ever marry again. I don't care if I live or die. I lost my baby because of him.
I
And he
feel
said he
for
would
you,
never
Fawzia.
do it again.
I feel for you.
I can't take it anymore.
It's okay.
Can't be right. This is what God wants us from women. I want to go and ask them.
Oh, no, Fawzia. Don't be crazy. This is a family matter, and that should stay in the family.
I need help. Then I will go and see the psychiatrist, Dr. Frank.
No, Jabbar is not going to like this. He's going to be very, very angry.
I don't care anymore.
Hey, you know what? I'm thinking of going back home for a while. My mother wants me to get married. She's afraid I might marry a girl here.
Last time I listened to my mother, I got stuck with a wife. And before we know it, we had a baby. All my plans of becoming an electrical engineer went down the drain. And here I am, driving a taxi.
What do you mean, stuck with a wife?
It is all my mother's fault.
I'm so happy to see you, Jabbar. I thought I never going to see you again.
I know, Mother.
You're alone over there. I want to marry someone in our family.
I know, Mother.
Fazia's alone. I want to make sure she marry a good man.
She will. She will marry a good man. I'll make sure of that.
She will be a good wife for you.
Me, Mother? But I'm not ready to get married. I have to study a lot to be an engineer.
But you are an engineer.
Not in Canada, Mother. I still have to study a lot.
She will make a good wife for you, Jabbar. Promise me. Promise me that you will marry Fazia.
I'm not ready, Mother.
Promise me. Promise me.
My husband did not want any children. His engineering career was more important to him.
It seems that you've been depressed for a long time. Was Jabbar abusive from the beginning?
No, he was very kind and affectionate. Then I got pregnant and he changed.
How did you two get married?
It was a shock for me. I found out he married me because his mother made him promise when she was dying. I was teaching Urdu in a high school in Pakistan, and I was totally happy with my life. 2 weeks after she died, I had to marry him.
You have a little 3-year-old son. How does the situation between you and your husband affect him?
He often gets angry. He breaks his toys. He hits me. And he says, he hates me. He seems like a miniature version of his father.
It seems like both you and your son are miserable. Why do you continue to live with Jabbar?
Where else would I go? How would I support myself and my son?
You can start off by going to a women's shelter, and they would help you make some plans for your future. Do you know about these shelters? Our social worker would discuss it with you and put you in touch with a shelter.
How dare you go to see that man without asking me first? You continue to disobey me. It is true you women can't be trusted. That is why God made you women less than a man. I am your husband, and you will obey me. You are good for nothing, and you will burn in fire.
It is hell living with you. It is hell living with you.
I gave up my future for you and your son.
He's your son too.
I drive a cab because of you. And this is how you thank me? You will obey me. You will obey me.
Yes, officer. My name is Dr. Franks. I'd like to report a case of wife assault. Yes, that's what I said, wife assault.
All right, sir, if you could just stand there for me, please. You understand you're under arrest for assault, do you? I want you to bring your hands back so the backs of your hands are together. I want you to lean forward slightly at the waist and continue to look off to the left.
She's my wife, officer.
No, I understand she's your wife, sir. But there's been an allegation of assault that has to be investigated. We're going to go up to the station and do that. Do you understand that?
Yeah, but...
Okay. I'm going to have to say something else. It's my duty to inform you of the right to retain and instruct counsel without delay. It means you can call a lawyer. Do you understand that?
Yeah, but...
If you're charged with offense, you may apply to the Ontario Legal Aid Plan for legal assistance. Do you understand that? I'll continue giving you your rights once you're in the car. What I want you to do first is sit down and then bring your legs inside. Okay?
It's a very painful subject. It's a subject in which my community has to come in terms with.
I thought that so many times that I should commit suicide, and I tried really.
In our society, man can hold everything. He's the boss at home. That was in my mind, so.
There are many men who believe that their religion actually gives them the right to beat their wives or to abuse their wives.
And we should never forget that this problem is a very deeply rooted problem in the general social psyche.
With the Toronto Police Service, we've defined domestic violence as any physical, sexual, or psychological harm attempted or done.
Any physical violence would be a criminal act. The consequences would be criminal in nature.
I feel there is some need of assessing each couple or each individual's needs and saying what kind of a service might do the best for that particular family.
It is only in recent times that we find that Muslim men are actually beating their wives and saying that the religion allows them to do this.
Right. Is that right?
In the past, the scholars never did this. This is unknown among them. Really? In fact, they would consider beating of the wife as a sinful act. They would consider that as a sinful act.
So what made this change?
I guess it's a lot of ignorance, actually. I have found that many Muslims are actually quite ignorant, very ignorant of Islam itself.
But sometimes you get angry and you cross the limit. And that's happened to me.
If a person is convicted, then he would have a criminal record. A conviction could be in the form of actual physical punishment, which could mean incarceration or spending time in jail, or it could be suspended sentence. In either instance, whether a person is jailed or a suspended sentence, there is no doubt in my mind that in all of these cases, one of the first things that the judge would order would be what is known as a probation. A probation would range anywhere from or up to, I would say, 18 months to 2 years.
There should be an effort, a joint effort made by the mosque, by the school, by the media, by all of society. We have to raise our children with the consciousness of non-violence.
It's not only mainly the man or the woman, the relationships that are concerned. It's the offsprings of that relationship and the eventual problems the offsprings will carry with them.
And I think that the communication is at the center. The communication has broken down, and those two people who are very affectionate, very loving, very caring for each other have finally become sort of in some way enemies. And transforming them back of these enemies into lovers and friends and soulmates, I think that is a big struggle. And I think once they learn that they're able to resolve things, they're able to resolve conflict, they're able to share their feelings, they're able to respect that. And I think once that happens, I always feel that if the marriage breaks down, that also is a very poor role model for the children.
Some statistics show that it occurs about 30 to 35 times before a woman will first report domestic violence. And that's wrong. It needs to be reported right away.
Many of my clients who went through this, they told me that they have also this strange dilemma that if they have called the police or if they are separated or divorced, maybe tomorrow nobody will ask the hands of their daughters.
many of the women are taught that it is also their responsibility to remain silent, not to call the police, not to seek help, because it is more important, they're taught, to keep the marriage intact than to do anything that may jeopardize it.
I sometimes even suggest separation counseling, that even if they've decided not to live together, still they understand what went wrong, why the positive, the affectionate, the kind feelings turned into this resentment and anger and this sort of a dark side. And even if they understand that, they can leave the marriage, they can leave the relationship on neutral grounds, so that they don't repeat the same thing in the next relationship. They don't carry the baggage, they don't carry their sort of the unresolved issues to the next relationship.
Sometimes it's pretty frustrating work, because sometimes, a woman may call in and she has years of abuse, and yet she may be unwilling to take that step that she may need to take in order to actually effectively put a stopping to this.
The criminal process is only capable of punishing. We must recognize that. That punishment is not necessarily the solution to the problem. That is one. Secondly, one in my view is critically important, is that what it does, it separates the parties from each other.
That in the system that we have, once the abuse takes place, many of these families fall apart. Many children are separated from the fathers, many wives are separated from their husbands, and then the dialogue that can resolve certain issue is broken down.
The two major participants in this process may be the husband and the wife, but the third most critical party are the children.
Children have ways of showing up, of showing these emotions, manifestations of the problems of the household. There are suicides. Somali young people committing suicides with no help. And that's a fact. There are Somali children running away from homes.
I usually encourage that it should not be done with any punitive approach. It should be a compassionate approach, a therapeutic approach, and compassion for all the parties involved. Maybe different people, for different reasons, have come to that realization.
It is a process, and I think we are going in a positive direction.
If you have a problem yourself, ask for counseling. And this counseling not necessarily comes from the hospitals or the psychiatrists, but also it comes from imams.
I would like to say to the men, especially the Muslim men, that Islam in no way tolerates, encourages, promotes, or condones abuse in whatever form it may take, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or even verbal. This is totally prohibited in Islam. It has no place in Islam, and it can never be justified.
In closing, it's very important to recognize the early warning signs and get help, and remember that any violence, any physical violence, threats is against the law.